Hello everyone, welcome to another awesome day of FileMaker Training. I'm Richard Carlton here at fmtrain.tv, where we're doing a lot of great content that I specifically appreciate, because a lot of times after doing this for 33 some odd years, you understand the spots where you're going to get in trouble, where there's kind of rough spots in the FileMaker platform. And our job is to kind of help educate people about where those rough spots are, how to kind of get over the rough spots. Today's conversation is a really interesting one because it's a little bit of history and a little bit of upfront education is required here. So let's cover the low-hanging fruit before we get going. First off, this is fmtraining.tv. If I hit the new button, I go fmtraining.tv. You get this amazing website right here. So it's pretty amazing. It's so very amazing. And so you can see the upcoming LiveStream broadcasts, which are scheduled. So today is a PDF, dealing with PDFs and dealing with containers in general, especially over a network solution. As a reminder, if you want to support the channel, definitely like us if you're on YouTube, and subscribe would be really useful. Additionally, if you want to really support the channel, actually with just besides, hopes and good wishes, right? We have bundles right here where we actually have our paid training courses. So instead of me going to Patreon saying, why don't you just give me some money for free? How about I actually give you some training in exchange for the money, right? Something valuable. So I'm not a big Patreon fan because I think that you should have an exchange of service, and so that's what we're doing. So go right here, buy a bundle, our training bundle. It's a great deal on dedicated training, upwards of 100 hours of dedicated training. Different than the live stream. The live stream is interesting because we get to interact with you and talk to you. This is one of those broadcasts that, if you're at least a Kyle level or above, I don't think you necessarily have to be here, but I have had this conversation with some of my senior engineers and they forget about it, right? So it maybe not the most heavily attended event, only because people are stupid, right? This is one of those days, if you don't know this, you're going to get your shot off with the FileMaker platform. It's stupid, but what do you think is going to happen? Well, that's what this is. This is really kind of like a live grenade. If we need to, for art, send me I have the local file. I can run it locally, which would be fine without running it on a server. If you guys can't make it run reliably on the server.
Yeah, that will work fine. I think I might have figured it out. I'm just testing something else.
Well, yeah, so let me know what the fix is on that. We'll go forward. So here's the issue. Let's talk about this today. So I've got a couple animations. We're talking about today's broadcast. Very, very important. So first off, understand that there's this issue of containers. So what are containers? Containers, these things have been around a long time. People stick images, documents into them. We sometimes you see our dead bird file where we actually stick random sample files, things like that. I'm going to pop open a database that I have. If I go to recent, I'm going to pop open my Chronos 2 project folder. This is where I keep training information for me. So it doesn't really matter too much what this is. This is just a sample file. So if I pop this open, these are training documents that have to do with aviation training. And so there are all sorts of documents that I think are really valuable. I'm the kind of guy that if someone passed a document by me and it's educational anyway that I might ever want, I scan it with a scanner and I keep a copy of it, even if I don't own the original. Super, super, super important that I do this. And I go back and reference this material because it's stuff I need to know. So I have this database, kind of like a dead bird database. Every record is basically a different document, right? But if you were in a CRM, this is totally applicable in a CRM. If you're in a CRM, you have project documents, like you have a project or a job, you're going to paint a house or re-roof it, Scott Kane, or the Weed Meister. There's a guy who goes by 69 Weed or whatever, and shows up on our live streams, and I'm pretty sure he's growing piles of weed, cannabis, and making it a ton of money here in California, whatever state you're in. And so he has project documents, information about the best way to make the weed grow, the most powerful THC content. There's a lot of places that you need digital document management. Claris historically never really kind of got this. They were always slow up on the uptake on this thing, and so it ended up being that a company called 360 Works made this ability to have digital document management that didn't suck performance-wise. Because you could always have containers, or they call them picture fields. Back in the old days, they weren't containers, they were called a picture field. And they were inside the file, so as you drag and drop them in the file, they start to balloon your file and get big. So what you want to do, if I go into field definitions here real quick, I'm just covering the low-hanging fruit. the containers that you see here, like if I go over here and I want to see, let me escape real quick. I'm going to come down here. I'm going to pick dissymmetry of lift. Okay, I'm going to click on this one. Here is the document. So what I do is I put one document here. If I have any supporting documents that immediately support the first one, I can load them down here, 4, 5, 6. But one record is basically this one document here. And so what I can do is go into field definitions, file, manage, database. And you're going to see these are all set for external. If I zoom in here, these are all set for external storage, which means that as I upload them, the document itself, the PDF, the movie, the image, the song, whatever it is in that container is saved externally. This is a huge performance boost, okay? So this is the first thing that Claris did in FileMaker 12. And since that time, there's just been this wrestling of what to do with containers. Getting them external is the #1 thing you can do to help performance, okay? The idea is that you don't want to jam up the file and make it huge. So what I've done here a little bit is I've reset my cache on FileMaker right before I came in here. And I've got this little app up here. It's hard to see. I'm going to anchor it right here. I'm going to turn on and anchor it. And I have to be careful because for those of you wondering, I'm going to zoom in here real quick. But it's showing me the bandwidth usage that I'm using. And this is since I restarted at the beginning of the broadcast. I have transmitted out thereabouts 400 megabytes, which seems a little on the light side. Should be doing more than that, but it's variable, right? It's variable. So if I go here and I do a reset, and I come down here and I reset all, then it resets it at 0. So what's neat about this is I can turn this on, and it's still moving a lot of data because I'm broadcasting, right? There went another megabyte, right? But in fact, as I start doing stuff on video, it accelerates and it goes much faster. But the idea with this is that you can flip a record or do something in FileMaker and you can measure what happens. So you don't want to be live streaming. You don't want to be watching movies in the background or listening to, Spotify or something. You want like kind of a network clean computer, and then you can run something like this to see what kind of bandwidth is being moved. And so what we find out in the world of FileMaker, and I'm going to turn this off right now, is that there is, besides internally stored containers and externally stored containers, the next thing to consider, and it's an absolute showstopper, is whether a container can be interactive or not interactive. Now, this was Claris's idea to do interactive and non-interactive because someone somewhere thought this would be a great idea, okay? And conceptually, it's a fantastic idea. It just actually sucks. That's the problem. So what I'm going to do is I'll come down here and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. So if I click on this container, I click on this container right here, and I come down here. I'm in layout mode, so I go to the right pane, right pane. So this is a right pane. There's a left pane on that side. This is a right panel of the right pane. So you got these panels here, right pane, what they call the data panel. And so I'm going to scroll down here, and I'm going to zoom in, and you need to understand what's going on here. This is a very big deal. This right here, both of these, this basically shows you basically what the image, what the document is, as the operating system can easily show it to you, right? So basically, FileMaker's not, this mode basically should say, show me whatever you could show me easily without any extra processing, is what this should say, okay? It doesn't say that. It says, they try to dumb it down for people, which I get, but this should say, don't do any extra processing, don't do any extra work, just kind of show me what you can show me. This one right here says, if you turn this on, is kick on the afterburners, fire up the jet engines, use a bunch of CPU power, use a bunch of networking power, and do whatever it takes to make it and show me what's in the container. Now, you go, well, I want all the engines on, I want everything going on. That's great, that's awesome. The problem is with that setting, there's two issues with it. One is the issue, like if you have one container, you have one container and one container only. If you have one container only and you set it for interactive, it's fine. Probably it's fine. The problem is I did this a little bit ago and I took a screenshot of this. If you, what you can do is, if I'm in browse mode in my FileMaker file, these are all set. Oh, I think it turned on the interactive. And so there it struggled a little bit and did some stuff. I'm going to carefully go turn this off, because it's literally like it's like a terrorist with a homemade bomb ready to go off. It's not a good thing. So what happens is you come over here to list view, and notice how fast this is. So I'm over here, and I'm going to start scrolling here. And what you're going to notice if I show this over here, I'm going to reset this real quick. And I know it's small, but everyone just kind of, and it's you can't really see it because I'm streaming. But as I scroll up on this, what you would be normally seeing is a very low flow rate here. The flow rate here you're getting is mostly me streaming, okay? And so what it's doing is it's giving us these little lightweight thumbnails, which are, so what FileMaker is doing on the Mac is because the Mac supports this, it's giving us a quickie thumbnail. The operating system is doing it. FileMaker is not doing it. The operating system does it for us effectively because it's free. FileMaker has a little switch in there and goes, oh, the operating system will give me a thumbnail. It's really fast, really efficient. It does it. In fact, this is a hosted solution. So on the server goes, oh, I can make this a thumbnail. And it basically generates the server side generates the thumbnail and sends us the thumbnail. Because if you look at these things, most of these PDFs, like if I drive over here, oh, you can see them right here on the right side. Look how big these are. That one's small and fluffy, but a lot of these are pretty damn big. Because guess what? If you have a project with a lot of sketches, architectural drawings, a lot of supporting documents, you could have 5, 10, 20 megabytes, right? And so notice as I scroll up and down here, this is moving pretty quickly. Why? Because it's not downloading all these megabytes to me. If it was downloading all these megabytes, think you guys would be like, Richard's not streaming anymore. Things are out of control. Richard, are you there? Hello, Richard. Where are you? We can't hear you, because my internet would die. So the issue is that you want containers. You want to be able to see them on a list view. You want to see a thumbnail to see what they represent, and you don't want your network to... You don't want your FileMaker server to act like a 1-year-old baby or a 6-month-old baby and blow everywhere. But that's what will happen. So you have to be careful. So how do you do that? You turn off interactivity. And on a Mac, it's fine. You can totally do that. And then so what happens, they say, well, I really want to see this document. It's, let's take like this one right. There's an aircraft release form. So this is the paperwork you fill out to release. After you've checked everything, they make sure that you've checked and done the checks. They release the aircraft to you. They release the helicopter to you. So here's a thumbnail, but I want to open it. So if I open it and we were doing the measurement, you'd see it's going to actually add immediately 1.6 megabytes to my network, and it's going to pop it open. If I open one that's 20 megabytes, I'm not going to do it right now, it would pop open the 20 megabyte one, right? So I'm going to do this one real quick for us so we can all see it. I press the button, 1.6 comes down. Bammo, we have the aircraft release form right here. So this is the actual PDF. So that is, in my opinion, although I'm right about this because I can demonstrate why everything else doesn't work. The whole point of this is that you want quick access. And so if you had a little bit ago, I turned on interactive containers. And then, is it this one right here? Okay, so what I did is I took my file over here, and I don't want to do it because it will destroy the live stream. I turned on interactivity on the list view, okay? Because the problem is on Windows, it doesn't give you a PDF to the thumbnail. It's an operating system limitation. It doesn't give you a PDF to the thumbnail. And so the Windows people, the FileMaker Windows people go, well, that's not fair. My Windows computer is just as good as the Mac. Maybe it is, maybe it's not, but it just doesn't deal with thumbnails very well on PDFs. And so, well, that's bullshit. So they go into layout mode, they turn on interactivity. And what we say interactivity is, the top setting was efficiently, lazily, just give me what you could give me in a thumbnail and don't kill the network. And the bottom option is spare no expense. Blow the network up, kill the processor, kill the server, do whatever it takes, dead or alive, bring me back some content. And the problem is that I turned that on, okay? And what happens is that it got to a point where it couldn't even give me the information, and and without me live streaming over the course of a couple minutes, and it almost sent down half a gig of data, because in order for it to do interactive content, it's going to send you the whole document. It sends you the whole document, whole thing, the whole enchilada, 20 megs, 10 megabytes, doesn't matter what it is, it sends you the whole thing. If you're in a list view and you turn on interactive containers, you are screwed. So let's talk about this visually another way. And this is where we talk about this. So my art department, this is why you pay us for the interactive videos. Most time you would only get this in a paid video, but we went the extra mile today because David Castillo kicks in. David, is David still there, or did he leave? Margaret, do you know if he's still left?
We let him go a bit earlier, but I can re-add him to the call if you'd like.
No, we let him go from the call. I did not fire him. Let him go. Yeah, you got to be careful how you say that. So,
sorry.
Yes, yeah, we did not fire the art guy because I need the art guy. Otherwise, this doesn't make any sense. So, what I have here is a FileMaker server and people, right? We all follow this, right? So, here's the FileMaker server. This is kind of the normal interaction. People log on to it. And someone, it doesn't matter which of these people, they get a PDF document. Let's just say it's 20 megabytes. And they're going to upload it to the FileMaker server. It's on the server. And we've set it to be externally stored. Must set it to externally stored. Someone called me the other day and says, hey, I need an audit. I need an audit of our system. It's slow. It sucks. And, oh, by the way, all our containers are set internally. And so you already know what's going to happen. The audit is going to be like, you know, someone built you a FileMaker system. They didn't watch our training. They didn't buy our training bundles. And then they built you a giant pile of shit. And then everyone gets mad about that. Claris doesn't like that. The customer doesn't like it. People want their FileMaker files to go fast. They want them to be kicking and going 9,000 miles an hour. They don't want this slow, painful experience. So the file is up there. It's externally stored. Now, if you need the file, then you need to download all 20 megabytes. That's just reality. That's just physics. You can't do anything about that, right? If you're hungry and you need food, you have to flap your mouth up and down and eat some food. Very simple, okay? Basic physics, right? I have to say that. So this is what happens. So you download it, and then Fred over here gets it, or Sally gets it, or whoever gets the document, okay? Because they want to see the document, okay? Now, they can export the file out of the container, or if their container was set to interactive, this happened. This would happen, okay? Understand? So this would happen. So in my world, remember the rule between, if I go back to the book, right? Here we are, pumping my book. This book is available for $19.99. Take your credit card. Operators are standing by. Please buy this. But however, I will read the FileMaker Holy Bible, the Holy Miles, and Margaret. First Margaret. How about we talk about First Margaret, chapter 1, verses 3 through 5. And the Lord saith that if you are a beginning developer, you don't know your from a hole in the ground. Got it. And thou shalt make containers that are interactive because thy is stupid. Got it, right? And then, but the Lord saith, holy is unto him that you should not do that, for your customers will think you suck, okay, or sucketh. So anyway, so you get the idea. As you grow up and you progress, you want it to run fast. So we even talk about it in here. It's talked about this whole idea that performance becomes this issue going from beginning to intermediate developer. To become an official, I'm the Pope, the Catholic Church. I'm going to bless you, Kyle, for you are a fully certified senior engineer, right? Or Larry, take your certification test. But for you to get to stage 2, the intermediate stage, like the intermediate, you have to be able to control when the container, when FileMaker does processing. You want to specifically control it. You don't want it to do it behind your back, like a bunch of schoolgirls yakking behind your back, talking about behind your back. It's like this noise that goes on. So what happens? So here's our little diagram, our chart diagram, okay? So this is step 2. So now we have a PDF up on the server, right? We're going to put the PDF up on the server. If someone accesses it, they bring it down, they can view it. We only want the 20 megabytes to transition the network when we tell it to do it. And we don't want it to happen really unless the person needs to pop the document open in its entirety and view the entire PDF. Like if I wanted to pop open the training document over here and I really want to look at the release form, right? Or we have the weight and balance form or whatever. Here's another one right here. I say, I don't want all these coming down unless I really want to dig into this document. Okay, so I want to dig into this document. I have a thumbnail here. I can come over here. I got a little bit bigger thumbnail, but I really can't read the fine print there. So I'm going to say open, and it's going to bring down the whole file. And so then we have it. So we precisely control the dump across the network from the server to the client. So here is where the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So people on Windows go, right? I want a where was the screenshot a second ago? Here is where's the screenshot? Is this the capture PNG? Is this you? Okay. So this is normally what the containers look like, PDFs look like in Windows. So I'm going to zoom in on this. So I'm going to zoom in a lot, and I'm going to pedal over here. So if you have a container on Windows, this is normally what you get, okay? That's not a thumbnail. That sucks. It is Windows, and it is very fast, but it's not as good as the Mac. So how do you overcome it on Windows, right? You turn on interactive container. Here is the problem. If you go to the interactive container, right, it's going to send you, remember, it sends you the whole thing down. So you get all 20 megabytes down just to view the thumbnail, right? And what if you go to a list view and you decide to display it in a list view like I just did? This is what you're going to do, right? It's kind of sad. But it's physics, right? Basic physics. So here you are. You have your 20 megabyte file. It's up here. And now we've got interactive containers set on because we're in Windows and we want our containers. And so let's look at our list view, right? So this is what happens. So you have this PDF and I'm going to view a list view. Oh, wait a minute. And this is what your computer's doing on your network. Literally this fast, actually faster than this. 20 megabytes, 50 megabytes, 5 megabytes, 80 megabytes. I had to stop mine the other day, a little bit ago, because I was downloading on this list and I had only 109 records, and basically it threatened to swamp and crash my computer because it was downloading all of these. And so turning on interactive containers is bad because it shoves everything down through the network. As soon as it's displayed, you lose control over your destiny, right? Makes sense? So currently, and I'm going to address this because Labo asked the question, if you turn interactive containers on the Mac, what it does is it starts streaming the PDF to you. So it takes the FileMaker server, it sets up a hidden little connection in the background, it starts streaming the PDF from page 1 to page whatever, and so it slowly streams it, but it's streaming all of them. So what happens is that they start to show up, the thumbnails show up on the Mac, and then behind the scenes it's still downloading the entire thing. Once again, this is if interactive is turned on the Mac, okay? On Windows, between Microsoft being Microsoft, and Claris engineers probably hiring some new engineers who are trying to figure this stuff out. They had all sorts of problems on 19.3.1. Everyone was ready to holy hell because the PDFs wouldn't work at all. So what Claris did is, if we go to the document over here, this is what Labo's talking about. Okay, this is what he's talking about. It says, because of known, I'm going to zoom in on this. Because of known issues with Edge 2 control, basically saying because Microsoft sucks is what this is basically says. Let me translate for you. And because we don't have the time to really fix it ourselves and kick with it, and we think Microsoft should do it, we have had to change how it works. So basically Microsoft sucks and we don't want to spend the time to do it otherwise. We have changed how it works in Windows on 19.3.2. PDFs are no longer streamed. They're just downloaded at fully carpet bomb. So the difference between streaming and downloading is that you're probably going to you might get a progress bar or dialogue over here on Windows, but there's going to be, it still downloads the whole thing, but it's forcibly downloading it in one giant pass before it shows it to you. So in streaming on the Mac, listen, streaming or downloading, they both suck because it's shoving a ton of stuff down through your network. If you're on a compromised network where it's like a phone or a Go device, and it's well, I've got LTE, or I've got 5G, or I've got 6G, or I've got Kyle G. Kyle G is like the tech from in 10 years. Like if you warped into the future, Kyle G, it's like instantaneous. But still, FileMaker would find a way of clogging it and making it go slow because we're shoving too much data through it. It's only 100 records. It almost completely impaired my thing. It didn't crash, but it sat there and spun. So how do we get around it? So everyone understands the issue here, right? Is that interactive is bad. Don't use it. If you use it, you're going to piss your customer off. They're going to think it's slow. What happens is FileMaker is slow, therefore you made and then therefore FileMaker sucks, and since you built the solution for them, you suck. So their solution sucks. You, the developer, suck. Sorry, I'm pointing right at you, every one of you. You suck, and FileMaker must suck because if it was great, it would go fast. Never mind that you made a design decision that caused this to happen. Please don't do it. Okay? Please stop. Please don't do it. Okay? Because this is physics. It's math. It's physics. You cannot lie your way through this thing. There's no way to do it. So what I said is, I said, this really sucks for Windows people. I feel sorry for Windows people. That Windows people need to be restricted to a non-interactive container. So therefore, they get the same performance and the same awesomeness as the Mac people. But we get all these stupid thumbnails in here, right? The goofy thumbnail. Hey, here's a thumbnail, right? It's ugly. It's ugly thumbnail, right? So the goal is for us to give you the Mac thumbnails so you're not inclined to press the interactive button, which will destroy your performance, right? So I'm trying to keep you from hurting yourself. So it's like when you take sharp scissors away from your 3 or 4 or 5-year-old kid when they're running in around the house and they're using the round, kindergartner scissors to cut paper and stuff. You don't let them run with sharp scissors, right? So that's what we're doing. So this is where I bring in and show you what we've done. So today is a cleanup. What are we doing today? What is this?
So let me go ahead and show you my screen. And this is a problem that I'm sure a bunch of you have seen before. I've got this great collection of documents, and I have no idea what these things are. It says Claris FileMaker data. That is that's something. And I guess there's a title that tells me a little bit more, but it'd be really, really helpful if I could look into this information and see maybe a thumbnail.
Now, this is the default behavior of a non-interactive container on Windows. And people go, oh, and so once again, the road to hell is paved with but. When you hear the word but, the road to hell. I'm telling you folks this. I love all of you. If I didn't love you, I wouldn't do this. You see this over here, and you go, but I want to see it. And so there's this little checkbox that says make it interactive, and it'll kind of then show it to you, except it's going to, you've just invited a skunk, a fully loaded skunk into your house. It may not spray you now, but the day is going to come where it's going to destroy you in your house. And so if you leave it like this, you get these ugly little icons, right? That's the problem, right? That is the problem. Calvin, that is the problem.
That is the problem. So how do we get around this? Now, in some platforms, we can select this. We'll see that you can get this thumbnail that appears, and that's nice, but not everybody is on the same platform. So on the Mac, when you drag and drop this, so I'm going to drag and drop this icon right here, this onto this this PDF into the container, and we'll let it load. And it's inserting it. I don't know how big this one was. It might take a second. But when it loads in, it will generate that thumbnail, and we'll be able to see it. But all of the rest of these were loaded on a Windows machine, so we didn't get that nice thumbnail. And depending on how you script it, if you script the insert into the container, you won't get that thumbnail either. So what we've done is we've taken this, taken a web viewer to allow us to view the data.
All right, stop. Let's try this again. So what we've done is that you shouldn't see any web viewers here, right? But what we've done is that is this a container right here? Is that a container?
That is a container. Yep.
What is this right here?
That's another container.
Okay, so we don't see any web viewers on screen. Let's just be clear about that.
Right.
So what we've done is we've created a back-end process that does a bunch of shenanigans. Literally, it's shenanigans. Mm-hmm. And after the shenanigans are over, you end up with a thumbnail. Now, what are in the shenanigans, Calvin? That's what you're describing.
Yeah. So in the shenanigans, we are pulling up this web viewer when inserting a JavaScript library, and then submitting the PDF to it and pulling out the first page of the PDF and using that as our thumbnail. So we actually have two different container fields. One is the master container field, and one is the thumbnail container field. A similar technique that is used in the FM gallery. So we have the specific thumbnail container, and that allows us to use the web viewer to pull out this and update it. So you'll notice that to refresh that last one, I had to drag and drop that container back. And in this case, let's go ahead and I'm going to select this refresh, and the refresh is going to run a process in a web viewer and update my container. So let's go ahead and try it. So it says generating thumbnail. and it might take us a couple seconds. It's got to load the web viewer, and then it's got to submit the PDF to the web viewer, and then the web viewer has to submit back the first page for that thumbnail. So now we've got this nice thumbnail. We can see the first page and kind of see if that's what we're looking for and recognize it in our list of documents over here. So this is just kind of a display to see how that would look. But if we want to dig deeper, we can look and see how these scripts are working. You'll see this is actually the same table. This one just looks a little prettier. Here we have our master container field that we're talking about, and here we have our thumbnail container field that is currently empty.
So walk us through what we're doing here. So the goal is we insert the original, then we're going to have a separate container, which will be the thumbnail. That is the goal, okay? And the shenanigans is the crap, I only said crap, that goes in here, right? So that's kind of the problem. And it's a real kind of hack, because there's all sorts of little gotchas with it, right? But the alternative is that you could spend about $2,000 or whatever it is. It was, what, $150 for the Monkey Bread plugin. Then you have to buy the Dyna PDF stuff. So it's like, for a single user, I don't know what it was, but I remember Dyna PDF was like $800 or $900. So you're looking at a minimum of about $1,000 solution if you want to use a plugin to solve this problem. So it's not like, if you're fundamentally, if you're using Monkey Bread for other stuff, Monkey Spread, then yeah, maybe go down that road. But if you're not using Monkey Bread, then maybe this is a better solution, especially if you're going to give one away for free. So go ahead and keep going through this, Calvin.
Okay. So we're going to go ahead and select this generate PDF thumbnail, and we'll see what happens. And so this testing is just I'm tracking the duration, how long it takes. So you can see all the times I've done that and how long that took for each one. Our general script settings, and then we're determining whether this is a PDF or not. If it is a PDF, we'll do our run through this process. And here is where we set the web viewer. We name it web viewer under thumb, and I believe that's what this web viewer right here. It's just this tiny web viewer on the layout. And I think we can still do it. It does have to be on screen. We can't pull it off screen, or else it won't work. So it does have to be in there at least slightly. We will set our global. We're using global fields just to keep things clean.
Okay. So let me pause real quick here. So there's a question here. We didn't frame this as well. So, so let me go through this one more time. So I'm going to draw pictures here. Everyone follow on. This is for Brian. Brian had a really good question. I want to make sure, because the questions Brian's asking, and it's clear to me that we didn't answer it. So this is the source PDF you put in. Okay, it's this one's 80. This one's actually a fairly small one, but some of these are pretty big. That's the source. We're not going to change it. Okay. Then there is a process that's going to occur that we're going to discuss here, and out of that process will come a image. This image will represent the first page only of the PDF, and a first page only of the PDF should generally give you a pretty good idea of what this actually is. Most time, if you see the first page and a thumbnail, you kind of like, oh, I remember that PDF, right? And so if you were going to make this into a solution, you'd have this in the solution. Then you'd have this probably maybe actually on top of that. So one field on top of the other, maybe something like that. You could do it a couple different ways, but the idea is that you keep this, and then you're going to have this. You're going to keep both of these. We are not altering the PDF in any way. We're actually taking like basically we're going to open up the PDF in a web viewer that you can't see. We're going to take a screenshot of the front page and glue it in here as an image, right? And then we can see kind of what it is. The Mac does this automatically already. This is a Windows compensation issue, right? So we're trying to compensate for the lack of window awesomeness, right? This is why Christian always says, oh, you're having a problem with Windows? Oh, you solve that with a credit card, okay? Yeah. The problem is that Macs aren't cheap, and I think they represent, in the latest poll, it was like 7.5% of computer sales, which means that 3% of the computer sales, or 92% of them, are still Windows, right? So for the 92% of you who don't want to put the premium money in on a Mac, this is the kind of stuff you have to do to compensate for what's going on. And this is a limit of the operating system. This is literally not the hardware so much as an operating. It's Windows, the operating system, doesn't have the ability to render the PDF. On the Mac, the FileMaker isn't rendering it. The operating system, the Mac OS, is rendering the PDF. So what we're seeing over here in the code, Calvin, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit, is the idea that we're going to render it in a web viewer, take a screenshot, stick it in here. That is what we're talking about. So we're good on that, Brian? Yeah. So is this necessary? No. But, it is what it is, and and a lot of people love Windows, and that's fine. I'm not going to tell you to buy. Listen, if I really was like Christian, I'd say get a credit card and kiss my ass, but go buy a Mac. But we believe in cross-platform action, and that's what's going on. So
just to get back to what we're doing, we're encoding the container as base 64 and then submitting it to the web viewer. And then the web viewer will run a process and call a FileMaker script. So if we look at that, the HTML for that web viewer, part of that is a perform FileMaker script command that calls this script called download PNG parameters. So you'll see that if you look in here, we've got our parameter, which is actually the image information, and we can decode the parameter. So let's go ahead and walk through this. Decodes the parameter, and then it sets it in our global field. And then we set our main field, and we'll see that it just populated. And we'll clear our globals again. And we'll notice that one took 500 seconds. So I'm tracking how long it's taking because I wanted to see what kind of lag we were getting. Most of the time, you'll notice it's 3 to 4 seconds. And our discussion probably took about 10 minutes. Now, this one took 6.5 seconds. And so here, we're getting that thumbnail. When we look at it over here, we're noticing these thumbnails on the top and in our list. And it's much easier to figure out what's going on seeing something like this than it is seeing just this plain PDF icon. Are we ready to jump over to Windows?
Yeah, you could show it on Windows. So Calvin, the whole point of this was not really to do it so much on the Mac, because the Mac already does this.
So here we are back in Windows. And we'll notice that we're looking at the same record. I'm going to go ahead and clear out that thumbnail. But earlier we did a drag and drop from the file directory to the container field, and we saw on the Mac how it generated that thumbnail. So now we're going to look at it in Windows and see how that does not happen. So here's the Claris FileMaker Data Migration Tool Guide. We're going to drag that over here. And it loaded, and we'll see instead of getting a nice thumbnail like we did on the Mac, Windows gave us the name and just an icon. So now we can select to generate the thumbnail, and it thinks about it a little bit and puts that into our thumbnail icon.
So now that is a non-interactive container. So this is like a really boring, dumb, basic PNG or whatever this is, JPEG, something, whatever it is. And so now you don't have to run this process anymore. It's like a one-time kind of deal. Does that make sense? So one-time deal. You keep both containers and maybe stick on top of it or whatever you want to do. And so the problem's solved basically, right? Now, the rub is that this Windows PC, Calvin decided that he would show you the most horribly slow performance computer possible. So this is a i3 processor, 1 point whatever gigahertz, and like 6 gigs of RAM or something like that, whatever. And so it's pretty minimal. So I almost said 6 megabytes of RAM, but that would be truly pathetic. But yes, I think 6 gigs of RAM, right? So cool. Message retracted. Oh, Michelle. Yes. Feel free to comment questions. So this is it here. So we can do this process here. Calvin's doing this right here. And if it takes longer, some of these take a long time. So the thought process, well, we could send it to the server to do it, PSOS it, right? But that turns out not to be an option, right?
Right. So the perform JavaScript in WebViewer script step is not supported on FileMaker server. So we can't use SASE, we can't use PSOS to accomplish this.
Yep. So this is a dialog right here that we're seeing, our card style.
That's the dialog, yep, and it's generating that thumbnail.
That's a really ugly card style window. Huh. Okay, and there it goes.
And so there's a thumbnail. So this is actually using that technique. So if I drag and drop a file onto this, then it will load the file into the main container field, but we're seeing that thumbnail container field on top of it. So if I go to edit layout, we'll see that there's actually two.
Yeah.
Open our object tree. Let me open that. We'll see that there's actually two containers. There's the thumbnail, and then behind that is the main container. The thumbnail is not editable in browse mode, and the container field is. So when you drag and drop, it's going to go to the object behind in the back that is editable, the main container field.
All right. So I hang on a second. So Kyle has a question or a statement, and I don't get it, but I'm thinking that he's onto something or something. So I'm going to open something here. Okay. There's two comments and questions here, right? So Kyle says, it would be nice if I didn't have to upload the entire file to get the thumbnail. Okay, so let me back up. Let me back up the logic here for this real quick. So this conversation is trying to give you a thumbnail for documents that are stored in FileMaker already. Now I'm on a Mac here, over here, and it already has thumbnails along the edges here, right? If I go over here to like this one right here, these are the little original containers. This happens to be a big thumbnail in my case, and I have various supporting documents. But this is the thumbnail automatically. On Windows, it'll look like it'll look all of just the icons. So in order for it to look like this, you have to run this process, right? And so you would have the entire file there already anyway, Kyle. So I'm trying to understand why I would want the thumbnail if I don't have the file, because the whole point of having the file is that it's in a container, an externally stored container, right, Kyle? So I'm trying to understand. I think
the point is, and this was something that Art and I had talked about, is trying to if your PDF is 30 megabytes, why are we loading the entire PDF into the web viewer to get the first page? But I don't see how we could load only one page of a PDF just because that's all that we want.
Well, okay, so this goes back to something Ed just said. So let's talk about this briefly. So understand that our starting point, so one, we don't want skunks in the house, so interactive containers are out. If you want to use interactive containers, then just leave the live stream and good luck. And when it blows up, you can send an email to support@rcconsulting.com, and we'll try to help you at $100 and whatever an hour. So let's assume that you have non-interactive containers, so they're high performance. You're storing the documents in FileMaker. On Windows, you have no thumbnail, and you want a thumbnail. If you don't like this, then don't use it, but then you're going to be stuck with the limitations of Windows. So if you, I'm not trying to give you guys the bird. If you don't want to use a credit card to buy a Mac, and you want to see a thumbnail at high speed with this performant, right, then you run this process. It creates a thumbnail for you once. It never has to do it again. So it's kind of like you pay for this. You're going to pay once for this, right, in terms of waiting time, whatever, and then you don't have to worry about it in the future, because in the future you'll have these little thumbnails that'll just go load really fast, right? on your computer, and you don't have to worry about it loading slow from the server, right? It'll be fast. So Ed's going, well, this is really slow. Yeah, I know. So we thought, well, let's offload it to PSOS or SASE on the server. That doesn't work. You have to use a robot, and if you don't have to have a robot, then what you're going to have it do is you're going to have a on-close script. Like when someone closes the system, it does a quick search to find any, and do an index find, so it's real quick. Any containers, thumbnails that are empty or have not been processed. And then it says, hey, would you like to process these? These need to be processed. You say yes. It's kind of a process that you're just going to leave and walk away from, and it's going to do this. It can run on Mac or Windows, this process. It doesn't really matter. The goal is to generate the thumbnail, right, and load it in there, right? So it's a penalty. It's an imperfect solution to a problem that people basically buy, right? So if you buy a cheap computer, you pay for it other places. This is one of those places you pay for it, right? Or maybe you love Windows and this is a cool thing, right? But whatever, if you want to see what it is, there's a process that has to run. It'll take a little bit of time. Ed just said it took a 1.43 megabyte file, took him 9 seconds to deliver that. Yeah, that's a little slow. So the question is, what are you going to do about that, right? You can either say, kiss my ass, I'm not going to do it, or try to do it in such a way that it's non-invasive. You don't want to do it in flight while the people are drag and drop them in there. It's one of those things you're going to drag and drop it in there and then handle it later on the back end. Does that make sense, right? I mean, I don't know what else to say, right? I mean, it's basically, it's like, I want it fast, I want it right now, and I don't want to pay for it, right? So, I want it fast, I want it right now, and I don't want to pay for it, okay? Those are, if you say all three of those together, they're incompatible. You can have generally two of the three. I want it fast, I want it right now, okay? But you have to pay for it. Or you don't want it fast, you want it later, and then it's free, right, kind of thing, which is what we're proposing here, a free solution that takes time that you need to glue on the back end of a close script or something. So someone says close on their desktop, probably not a laptop, because most people just take the laptop and they close the hatch and they're done. And that doesn't do you any good, right? So Stu says, can you kick the script off and run it in the background like a local version of PSOS without waiting? We've been playing with that. So the web viewer has to be on the screen. Calvin, you want to talk about this a little bit? The web viewer has to be on the screen.
Yeah, so we tried to do it so that we've been trying to make this web viewer, because you don't have to interact with the web viewer, so we're trying to make it minimal so it's not in your face. And if you put it off screen and off to the right of the layout, it won't work. It has to be on screen, at least partially, and even if it's just 1 or 2 pixels. And you'll notice, let me go ahead and just run I'll run this refresh while we're sitting here. And you don't see, or I guess if you look closely, you could see the web viewer is in the lower right corner.
Well, I got a box where over right? Wait, because I got a box here that says Calvin here. Right,
yeah,
where?
So the lower right corner of the actual dialog box.
Oh, right down here?
Yeah. So you didn't really see it, but it's there.
Okay.
And we tried doing it on so first we tried doing it off screen on the main layout. That didn't work. Then we tried doing it on a secondary screen secondary layout or window off screen, but it actually has to be visible on your desktop for it to work. And so then we went to the dialog, or just doing it in a semi-hidden web viewer on the layout. In our demo, working layout, this one, the web viewer is right here. You don't really interact with it, but it's right there, so you can, FileMaker can use it.
So this is important. So Kyle's asking this question, and Kyle's got, this is finally good. So there was this demo called Wheat Bricks or whatever it was, and we're going to probably have a webinar talk about this. I need to figure out if the Digital Fusion want to come and do that. But basically, is the idea that if you have a web viewer, if you have something that's in a web viewer, it doesn't generally print very well, prints very poorly, resolution's low. So there's this demo created by the guys at Digital Fusion, guys and gals at Digital Fusion, and basically you send it some HTML or whatever. This online service renders this, and it gives you back an image, which is kind of what we're doing here, except that we're not going to send the PDF to some offline service. I guess you could, but that's kind of a security thing, right? So you have this PDF. We're bringing down basically this JavaScript service, but we load it in a web viewer, which is part of the performance penalty here that we're paying, right? So instead of our stuff going off-site somewhere where there's no security or no control, this is more of a secure solution. It's just not fast. And so, yeah, it'd be great if it PSOS. The FileMaker server will not do what performs JavaScript and WebViewer, or what does it perform?
Perform FileMaker script.
Perform FileMaker script out of JavaScript. Is that what you're saying? The JavaScript can't trigger a FileMaker script. Yeah. So you have to have it do it with a robot. If you have a robot, add this to your process. It does a search, all the containers that were put in there. It runs once an hour, once a day, every 5 minutes, whatever. And so people start off with it looking like this, and then an hour, 2 hours a day later, when they go back and look at it, it looks like this, which solves the problem. That's great. Because when they first drag and drop it in there, they know what they just stuck in there, right? Pretty sure. It's the point later when you come back and you're like, what is that? Right? So, and like if I see this right here, go back to 337 right here. If I see this right here, this is an FAA document 337. It's a major repair alteration to an aircraft. Any aircraft. If you do anything to an aircraft substantial, you file a 337. It's a 337 government form, and it says what you did, and you sent the FAA, and they put it in a little computer database, and never to be seen from again. But you keep copies of this stuff to make sure you're doing the required maintenance on the aircraft. So when I see this, I see a government form, I see official signatures, and then I know that already gets my brain going one way. And then up here I see this like FAA thing, and then click, I know what it's about, or I know it's a 337 or something, right? So that's the idea. That's the idea. So robot's great for that. Kyle says, I thought it was it would be nice to have perform JavaScript function that doesn't require a web viewer to do this. I remember having set up a robot with PDS and WebDirect was first introduced. Yeah, so basically the limitations basically you have three choices in this, right? So let's just be clear about this, right? And this is one of those live streams that is not as much fun because we're compensating for problems in the technology. So the FileMaker platform fundamentally doesn't render okay? It doesn't render anything. It doesn't render image in a container web viewer. Just does it. All it does is basically this is its default behavior right here. Then on the Mac, and I know about this because I'm the guy, we talked about this before, I instigated a request. The engineer came back to me, they built it, and then they didn't have permission to build it, and they got in a lot of trouble, and then, long story short. So I was the instigator of kind of how this came to be on the Mac side. And I said, well, having it work on the Mac was better than, not on Windows was better than not having it work at all, right? Because, so anyway, the default behavior for FileMaker is just an icon. Good luck, have a nice day. Then on the Mac, it sends it out, you get back a thumbnail. On Windows, you're still going to get the little icon. And so if you don't like the icon, your choice is turn on interactive containers, in which case you're going to screw yourself, right? We saw that recently with 19.3.1 between Claris and Microsoft. It broke the crap out of the solution. The skunks went wild, spraying everyone on 19.3.1. Somewhat better in 19.3.2, but still problems, according to Clay Mackle. Not so much on the Claris side now. It's Microsoft is screwing around with that Edge Chromium API that's in the operating system. They're changing stuff in there and potentially breaking things in Windows. So this is kind of this double-edged sword. So you have the turn on interactive container, bad idea, or just live with it and it sucks, or you buy a plugin, and so it's going to be probably between $500 and $1,000, the cheapest to get the Monkey Spread plugin and the Dyna Corp, whatever it is, right? And then the third option is this one right here, and then or the fourth option is buy a Mac, right? So you have a continuum of cost from buy a Mac to buy the plugin to this is free. This is free, right? So there you go. Michelle Gravel says the file worked perfect for me. Thanks. So the idea is for us to demo it for you. kind of interactive and live. The idea is that you take that process. I would think about attaching it to a closed script that someone runs. And it's going to sit there and do this. So if it has to run 5 or 10 containers, it might spend 5 minutes doing that. You know, if you have really big containers, like a lot of my documents in my file are pretty big, right? If I go back to the list view and I go to training documents, I got, 500K, 1 megabyte. Then I got 16 megs, 57 megs, 18 megs, 19 megs, 5 megs. Because if you scan a document, someone gives you a big training document and you don't have you just have the paper printout, you scan it, you're going to have a bunch of images. We talked about this yesterday, a little bit about PDFs. There's a 17 one, right? Or a 17 megabyte, right? So this is the part on emergency process for stuck pedals in an aircraft.
One other thing we can look at is the PDF viewer, because as much as we're getting this thumbnail, which is great, we're not getting that interactive container functionality of being able to scroll through a PDF. Mm-hmm. And so there's also this view button where we can view in a view the document in the web viewer.
I'm not on your screen. Not sharing your screen. You have to wait 1 second. That's not it. That's Slack. Where'd it go? Oh, down here. All right, you want to try this again? I'm going to go full screen. Okay. Start that again.
So here we can see that we have this. We have these screenshots, these thumbnails of the first page of the PDF, but we can't actually go through the pages. Now, we also have a web viewer using the same library that generates that PNG, but in this case, it allows you to navigate through each page of the PDF and read it. And so it takes a second to load each page, but there we are going through the PDF itself.
Yeah, my general suggestion is to open when you want to view the full document, you export it and then open it with the default player on the computer. That way it gets it out of FileMaker. Listen, FileMaker doesn't like this. It just hates big things like this. And if you want to have a performance solution with lots of users and data, you need to stay in FileMaker's lane, right? What it's good at. And what it's not good at is generating big ass web viewers with big documents, etc. Right? So it's better to have a little thumbnail. If you want it, press a button. This is the way it works in Starting Point. It kicks it out of FileMaker onto the directory of your computer on the hard drive somewhere, like on the desktop, and then it tells the operating system to open that up with our extension, that is a Word file, PDF, PowerPoint, Excel. Use whatever the default app on the computer is, so it's in Excel or Preview or Adobe Acrobat or whatever. It's out and away from FileMaker, right, is the whole idea. It's an important, people say, I want to put everything in FileMaker. They're just an inexperienced developer who's going to get in trouble when they get to a big solution. It just won't do it under in a high performance kind of situation. And
we are using FileMaker with perform script with options.
So that's 19.2.1 or 19.1. What is it? What is that minimum? Look that up for me. Look that option up.
Yeah, I believe that's 2. Let me look it up.
19.2 minimum according to Kyle. Yeah. Yeah. So so if you don't like this option, then your choices are buy a plugin or buy a Mac. Your choice, or just go with ugly icons. Larry says if you load the PDF on a Mac and then move to Windows, the thumbnail will be there. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So, what you can do is, if you want to do that real quick, just without even doing this process, I'm pretty sure this is the case. I'm gonna go back to you, Calvin. Let's just answer this one.
Yeah.
I don't want this to hang out. So forget your process. Let's jump back to Mac real quick, but pick a thumbnail that hasn't been rendered at all, right? And let's just have it.
Yeah, let me start sharing.
But you have to make sure you're on a shared solution, right?
Yeah, so it does. I actually started the demo with that.
Yeah, I don't think everyone really appreciated what was happening.
Okay.
And then Peter, if you have to cut out, I understand that. Thank you. So here's a thumbnail here, and oops, sorry. Let me get this. Oh, that's the little box. Can you get that out of the way, Calvin? Your little file, Richard.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. So,
of course, I grabbed the one that's 45 megabytes. Okay.
So you're running. Okay, back up. I'm talking about without running this process, right?
Right.
If you run the process and it creates a thumbnail on the Mac, yeah, it's shared. Remember, it does it once and it's saved, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, go ahead.
So I'm going to export this one to the desktop.
Oh, and then bring it back in?
And then bring it back in, yeah.
Okay.
So here is the receipt for David Clark. I'm going to drag and drop that over here.
Okay, but is it running your script or is it not running your script?
No, it's not running the script. It's just drag and drop.
Okay.
So there it is.
So David Clark, receipt headset. So without running the script, correct, it did not run our script. The Mac operating system, because FileMaker said, hey, can you render it? It does it there. We have it here. So if we go now, you commit the record. We go back over to Windows now. We go to the David Clark receipt. Do we have that benefit, right? So some people actually buy single. In fact, Jonathan Ray had a customer. I don't remember what his deal was, but the customer really wanted this. They ended up going off and buying one Mac so they could fix this issue. So he literally broke out the credit card. See, there it is. So if the Mac generates a thumbnail for you, you get to keep it, right? The problem is if you're 100% Windows operation, then you have a challenge, right? So, all right, Ken says he's off to Colorado Springs to announce a balloon rally. See you all Tuesday. Have a great holiday weekend. Yeah, it sounds like fun. Awesome. Cool. All right. Well, I think that's it. So hopefully everyone understands this. Good job, Calvin. Calvin, good job.
Thank you. We'll see you.
Good job.
Bye.
Yeah.
And the guys just stepped up the whole way. Calm, cool, collected the quarterback. Great read, good patience. More importantly, great job up front protecting this quarterback to give you a chance. And that's all you can ask for.
Trying to rally down 10. 9:25 to go here in the fourth. Short motion by Amendola from the left. Brady takes the shotgun snap. Stands in, throws it left for Amendola. Reaches up and snacks a high throw and lands inside the 10. Rolling to the 9. Ball slightly behind him, but Danny makes the grab.